It's 4 o'clock, the top stories on 7 News. The interest rate holds steady, but the Reserve Bank won't rule out future hikes. Welcome relief, a drop in power bills on the way. And royal fans breathe a sigh of relief. Princess Kate spotted in public for the first time in months.
Live from Sydney, 7 News with Ann Sanders.
Good afternoon. The Reserve Bank has today made the decision to leave the cash rate unchanged at 4.35%. Joining me now is Eleanor Creagh, PropTrack senior economist. Eleanor, good afternoon. Thanks for your time. Now, this was widely predicted. Why has the RBA kept rates on hold?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, we saw the Reserve Bank holding interest rates in February this year also, and this continued pause, I think, reflects the continued easing of inflation pressures, whilst the economy, businesses and consumers and households are all still adjusting to the full impact of those significant interest rate rises that we've seen. So we've seen substantial interest rate tightening since May 2022. And that tightening is still flowing through to the economy. And we're seeing the economy slow and inflation move lower as that catch-up occurs.
Well, many economists are predicting the RBA will drop the cash rate sometime soon. Do you agree? Is that where we're headed?
We are expecting that inflation pressures are going to continue to move lower. We're likely to see the unemployment rate also maybe moving slightly higher throughout this year, and the economy also continuing to slow. Now, the Reserve Bank have been pretty clear that if inflation does surprise to the upside or move lower more slowly than expected, that the risk of further interest rate rises remain. However, we don't think that that risk is going to materialise. And we think it is likely the cash rate has peaked in this current tightening cycle, with the next move likely to be lower at some point in the latter part of this year, probably in the last quarter of this year.
Well, if the cash rate does come down, how will that affect the housing market?
Certainly, we've seen that the housing market has been incredibly resilient to the impact of the substantial tightening that we have seen so far. And actually, in February, national home prices lifted a further 0.45% to a record high. They hit another fresh record high in Sydney too. And we're expecting that home prices are going to continue to lift in the months ahead, with the housing demand versus supply imbalance that we're continuing to see propelling prices higher. The expectation that interest rates are going to move lower in the second half of this year is also likely adding to demand and providing a bit of a positive tailwind. And certainly that will continue as interest rates move lower, with prices expected to continue to lift.
Eleanor Creagh from PropTrack, thanks very much for your time this afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
A major emergency operation has been launched this afternoon after an ATV careened down a cliff face in Bronte. A council worker in his 60s was driving the vehicle and he's been taken to hospital. Tom Saker is at the scene.
Good afternoon. This right here is the top of Bronte Gully, and down there beyond that steep ravine is the bottom, or almost, where the all-terrain vehicle tumbled down just a short time ago. A council worker aged in his 60s was behind the wheel when the ATV went down the ravine. He's been taken to St Vincent's Hospital with suspected chest injuries. Council workers are down in the gully now. They've tied the vehicle to trees to keep it in place while they now work out what to do with it and how to get it out. The man is lucky he didn't actually fall further. There is another plunge beyond where his ATV luckily came to a stop. It's believed the man was up here this afternoon on council land trying to do some work on it, but it's still not clear how he tumbled over the edge.
The royal family is hoping a new video of Princess Kate and Prince William shopping in Windsor will see an end to weeks of wild speculation and conspiracy theories. They're the first pictures of Kate seen in public since Christmas Day. Ash Mullaney reports from London.
Well, the world had been asking, where is Kate? And this video should put some minds at ease. The Princess of Wales, spotted in her gym gear with Prince William by her side. She looked happy and relaxed as they stepped outside of a Windsor farm shop over the weekend. The couple had reportedly been watching their children play sports that weekend before going to this local cafe. It's not unusual for the locals to leave them in peace. They're quite protective of the royal family in Windsor. Windsor, but of course one person has recognised them, taken this video. This is the first time we have seen Princess Catherine in public since Christmas Day, the first time there's been any image of her since that infamous Mother's Day photo, which turned out to be heavily edited. Kate underwent abdominal surgery back in January, and Kensington Palace said she would not be carrying out any official duties while she was recovering at home, not to expect to see her out and about until after Easter. There are new reports today that she may make an appearance over the Easter weekend if she is feeling well enough. Certainly, this video is a sign that she's on the mend.
The Ukrainian ambassador in Canberra is demanding a meeting with the ABC over what he's called the journalistic equivalent of a bowl of vomit. He's referring to last night's Four Corners episode, a documentary about the Russian front line. Vasyl Miroshnichenko saying the ABC aired countless blatant lies, historical distortions, racist claims and propaganda narratives emanating from the Kremlin, and that it denigrated the deaths of thousands of innocent Ukrainian men, women and children, saying he wants to meet with the ABC to share facts that he believes were disregarded. The competition watchdog would have the power to break up the big supermarket chains under a push from the Greens in Parliament. The party will this week table a bill which could force the big two to sell off parts of their business if they misuse their market dominance.
Right now in Australia, the corporations have got too much power, people are getting price gouged, and we need to shift the balance in favour of the interests of the Australian people.
Many countries already have similar laws, including the US and some European countries. Big tech companies have been warned about allowing the spread of radical material on their platforms. Australia's e-Safety Commissioner has issued legal notices to Google, Meta, Twitter X, WhatsApp, Telegram and Reddit. Paul Caddick reports.
Good afternoon. Some of the world's biggest tech companies have been put on notice, asked to explain just how they're protecting Australians and facing big fines if they don't comply. It follows growing concerns about the spread of terrorist and violent extremist material on social media and messaging platforms and how it can be used in things like online radicalisation. The e-Safety Commissioner issuing legal notices to Google, Meta, which owns Facebook, Instagram and WhatsApp, X or Twitter, encrypted messaging service Telegram and social network Reddit, requiring them to reveal the systems they're using to identify that content and prevent users from being exposed to it.
These are scenes and this is content that you can't unsee. It's very, very damaging. And what we're concerned about today is that there are major platforms that our children are using every day that are being weaponized.
Almost 5 years after the Christchurch massacre was live streamed on Facebook, she says recordings of it are still being circulated. An OECD report ranked Telegram as the #1 mainstream platform when it comes to the prevalence of terrorist and violent extremist material, with Google-owned YouTube second, then X or Twitter, and then Meta's Facebook and Instagram. The Commissioner says the companies could face fines of nearly $800,000 a day if they're found to be non-compliant.
Once they lose that trust of the customer, once advertisers find that the platform is unsafe or it's toxic, they will vote with their feet.
Companies have been given 49 days to comply.
A lucky escape for a family of 8 as fire ripped through their home at Whalen near Mount Druitt. The blaze broke out last night around 7 and quickly engulfed the property. Neighbours saw windows smashing from the heat of the flames after hearing a loud explosion. Luckily, the family managed to escape without any injuries. Lava flowing from Iceland's latest volcanic eruption is starting to slow. Scientists say the eruption appears to be weakening and is likely to peter out in the coming days. Defences protecting the fishing town of Grindavik are holding. It's the 4th time the volcano has erupted within 3 months. Angie joins us now with the latest on Sydney's weather. Hi there, Angie. It was a warm one today.
And temperatures were above average, and after a grey couple of days, it was nice to see some sunshine. The day started out looking quite gloomy once again. Lots of cloud over the city, but by this afternoon, it was a complete transformation. brilliant blue skies and summer-like heat. The CBD reached a top of 27 degrees this afternoon, only 2 above average, but it felt warmer than that due to high humidity above 70%. Overnight, we did pick up some more rainfall, heaviest on the northern beaches. 18 millimetres fell at Mona Vale and 16 at Terry Hills. By comparison, just 3 at Observatory Hill. There is some unsettled weather impacting our state again this afternoon. Severe storms have developed in the southwest, as highlighted in yellow in the far corner, and they are expected to continue tracking east. It's all linked to a southerly buster due to drop temperatures, whip-up blustery winds and big surf. We'll also see some wet weather. Details on when that change will arrive coming up soon, Anne.
Thank you, Angie. Still to come in Sydney's afternoon news on 7, police reveal the massive operation of a Western Sydney cocaine ring. A platypus free in the wild after a nasty health scare. Plus, Tasmanians go wild for their new sporting team. Monumental sign-up numbers.
In 7 News, Sydney power bill relief on the way. How much you'll save and when. Interest rates on hold, so when are the cuts coming? We hear from the RBA boss. The neighbourhood dispute that led to a hit and run at Doonside. First video of Princess Kate out and about. And Sydney's surprise new luxury suburbs revealed. Sydney 7 News at 6.
Welcome back. You're watching Sydney's afternoon news on 7, and this is a view from Campbelltown, where it's currently 28 degrees and sunny. Police have smashed a sophisticated dealer drug ring, making 3 key arrests in Sydney's west. The strike force executed search warrants in Bass Hill and Parramatta yesterday afternoon. 3 men were arrested, between 22 and 26 years old, charged with 27 offences. They're accused of selling approximately 500 bags of cocaine a week. Police also seized 3 vehicles and $10,000 worth of designer goods. The woman whose wild outburst forced a Jetstar flight to Bali to turn back to Melbourne has not been arrested or charged, at least not yet. Hundreds of holidaymakers had to stay at home for the night, but the trouble continued when they returned to the airport today.
We'll try again today. A plane's already been delayed for an hour this morning.
Federal police say they're still investigating a disturbance on board. The Israeli military has raided an Al-Shifa hospital in northern Gaza. Israel claiming that Hamas fighters had regrouped in the medical complex and were directing attacks from there. At the same time, the US president has spoken directly to the Israeli Prime Minister.
President Biden speaking to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu today for the first time in more than a month, and that call coming at a moment of high friction between the White House and the Israeli government, especially over the potential for an Israeli assault on the city of Rafah in southern Gaza. Prime Minister Netanyahu says that is the only way to destroy Hamas. The White House has been saying consistently for weeks now that any attack on Rafah would be a disaster without a credible plan to get the more than 1 million Palestinian civilians who are sheltering in the city out of harm's way. The call also coming a couple of hours after Israeli forces raided the Al-Shifa hospital, the largest medical facility in the Gaza Strip. They say they were acting on precise intelligence and that they tracked down and killed a senior Hamas operative. Hamas acknowledging the death of this individual, but saying he was really a civil police officer, partly responsible for trying to secure aid shipments into Gaza City. Now, Israel says Hamas has been consistently using hospitals as bases, but Palestinian health officials say this is another example of Israel targeting a medical facility, a potential war crime. They say a number of casualties were sustained during that Israeli raid. The hospital functioning at a very minimal level at this point, but there are thousands of Palestinian civilians sheltering inside, hoping that being on the hospital grounds would offer them at least some modicum of safety.
Vets at an animal sanctuary in Healesville in Victoria have saved a platypus who was badly hurt by a fish hook. The female was found tangled in debris on a creek bed, the hook piercing the top of her bill. Vets have now managed to remove the hook, and after 3 weeks of rehab, she's been released back into the wild. AFL fans are rallying behind the new Tasmania Devils following a launch party on the Apple Isle last night. More than 80,000 members have signed up, doubling initial expectations for the AFL's newest team. Mitch Cleary has the latest.
Good afternoon. Well, the Tasmania Devils are alive. This has been an overwhelming response since last night's launch from footy fans here on the Apple Isle who have been waiting decades for this very announcement, some calling it the biggest night in Tasmanian sporting history. Now, the team, the Devils, are due for entry into the AFL in 2028, but there is a sense of caution ahead of this weekend's election that does threaten to throw a spanner into future plans around the new Hobart Stadium, which remains a non-negotiable. But it didn't stop Richmond and Tasmania legend Jack Riewoldt taking to the streets today. Here's some of the key stakeholders speaking earlier this morning.
We're a bit emotional about the fact that it looks like it's happening last night, so that was terrific.
I think it sends a loud message to everyone, and hopefully there's people out there that maybe have been sitting on the fence about the football club and can see that there is a powerful movement here, and they're all welcome on board.
We are the team. It's going to be a while before the players come, but we're the team for now.
It was clear that we were going to be the Devils. Nearly 70% of our survey results came back to say that people wanted us to be the Devils.
Now, that membership figure continues to rise from people here on the Apple Isle. We'll have the very latest tonight in our bulletin at 6 p.m.
There's something of a baby boom happening at Taronga Zoo. Among the new arrivals, twin red panda cubs. Because they're an endangered species, they've spent the first 90 days of their lives tucked away with mum in the safety of their soundproof and private nest box. The male and female cubs are expected to start popping their heads out and exploring their outdoor habitat any day now. Next in 7's Afternoon News, we'll have sport with McLaughlin, including the NRL boss hits back at claims Latrell Mitchell gets preferential treatment. John Longmire laughs off suggestions the Swans are better without Buddy Franklin. And later, after months of pain, finally some good news about power prices.
In 7 News, the booming Sydney suburbs, where big is best.
Great things happening in Western Sydney.
Trophy homes and luxury living.
Enjoying every minute of living here.
That's cheaper than you think. On Sydney's 7 News with Mark Ferguson at 6.
Let's go to sport now with Mel McLaughlin, and there's a bit of pressure on the NRL, Mel.
Yeah, there is, and the league is under fire for refusing to sanction Latrell Mitchell for his foul-mouthed radio interview. At the launch of Multicultural Round in Parramatta this morning, Chief Executive Andrew Abdo was asked whether the Rabbitohs star gets preferential treatment.
This is actually quite consistent with how we've treated incidents of this nature before. From time to time, there'll be things said that players regret, and I've heard Latrell acknowledge the fact that he does regret that, and I will have a chat to him in due course.
Mitchell says it's time for everyone to move on. Jerome Luai expects Panthers fans to be respectful towards Ezra Mam in Thursday night's grand final rematch in Penrith. Luai and many teammates remain close with Spencer Leniu, who copped that 8-week ban for racially vilifying Mam during the Las Vegas season opener.
Yeah, I've got my own point of view on it. Yeah, probably something I don't want to dive too deep into. It's all been said and done, but yeah, just hopefully the boys have learnt what they need to learn and we can all move on.
Payne Haas is expected to line up for the Broncos despite a knee injury. Suggestions the Swans are a better team now Lance Franklin is gone have been rejected by coach Don Longmire. AFL legend Lee Matthews says using Buddy's salary to recruit Brodie Grundy has improved the team. Longmire laughed off a report claiming the club had grown tired of the champion forward after 10 seasons.
Lance has been one of the most popular players we've had at this footy club, and certainly one of the best players I've ever coached. So, no, we hadn't had enough of Lance.
The Swans are out to continue their perfect start to the season against Essendon at the SCG on Saturday night. Tim Tszyu welcomes the bonus chance to become a unified boxing world champion 12 days before his Las Vegas blockbuster with Keith Thurman. The American pulled out, blaming a biceps injury. Tszyu will now face the 1.97 metre Sebastian the Towering Inferno Fundora to unify the WBO and WBC 154-pound titles.
We're talking about the greatest boxing families to ever step foot on this earth happening right now. He's tricky, he's tall, but whatever.
The towering inferno is coming off a knockout loss to Brian Mendoza, who's Zoo's most recent victim. Golden Slipper favourite Stormboy has firmed in betting after drawing perfectly in Barrier 2 this morning. To be ridden by globetrotting Englishman Ryan Moore, the unbeaten colt is perfectly placed to give Gay Waterhouse a record extending 8th slipper and second with Adrian Bott. Moore won last year's slipper aboard Shinzo.
He'll take a lot of confidence out of that. I think he'll suit the horse. He's one of the strongest jockeys in the world physically as well.
Gay and Adrian will have at least 6 of the 16 runners. Slipper Day is live right here on 7 on Saturday. And coming up tonight in 7 News at 6, our exclusive interview with Kyle Chalmers. He explains a drastic move to save his Paris Olympics after his lifelong coach was banned in mysterious circumstances. You don't want to miss that one. Obviously, he wants to get everything right for Paris.
Sure. All right. We'll look forward to seeing that at 6. Thank you, Mel. This afternoon's top stories are next, including relief for homeowners, but why the Reserve Bank won't rule out a rate rise down the track. Allegedly threatened with an axe, a neighbourhood dispute turns violent. Plus, the palace sets the record straight after Russia makes a big claim about King Charles.
Live from Sydney, 7 News with Ann Sanders.
Welcome back. These are our top stories on 7. The Reserve Bank has kept the cash rate steady at 4.35% today. We'll bring you more on that in just a moment. A council worker in his 60s is in hospital this afternoon after the ATV he was driving careened off a cliff in Bronte. Australia's e-safety commissioner has issued a warning to big tech companies like Google and WhatsApp. They could be facing thousands of dollars in fines over growing concerns about the spread of terrorist and extremist material online. And Princess Kate has been spotted in public for the first time since December. A new video showing her shopping with her husband Prince William in Windsor. The Reserve Bank has kept official interest rates on hold. It's a decision that was widely expected, but the Governor, Michelle Bullock, isn't prepared to rule out any further rate hikes. Our Network Finance Editor Gemma Acton is here with us this afternoon. Gemma, what's behind the board's thinking?
Well, Anne, the Reserve Bank is looking at the same data that we're looking at, which shows that trends are moving in the right direction, but it is just too early to say that we've won the battle on inflation. Yes, inflation is coming down. Yes, consumers are spending less. Yes, the jobs market is also softening, but there are some bits that are just a bit too hard to crack at this point. Services inflation remains a real sticking point, so the board will need to see more data on services inflation, more proof that that is coming down before they make any sort of move. The Governor was very keen today to make sure nothing was off the table.
The board believes the risks to the outlook are finely balanced and that it's too soon to rule anything in or out. The data showed a slowing in GDP growth in the December quarter, slightly higher unemployment rate, slightly higher wages growth and a further moderation in inflation. We understand that households are still bearing the brunt of this inflation challenge. We see that in the weak consumption data, and we know that there is a big cost of living squeeze on households. Unemployment's also ticked up a bit. Employment's continuing to grow, but these are firmly on the board's radar, and that's why we're being cautious.
All right, well, Gemma, this is what the market was expecting. What can we expect in the future?
Yeah, very much so. So today I didn't see a single economist stick their neck out and say they expected a change today. Since the decision's come out and since the press release, I also haven't seen any economists change their view on when the rate cuts will be, so either later this year or early next year. There has been a bit of change if you look at the markets, what the traders are thinking. So the way the markets are priced implied that traders thought the first rate cut would be around August, September. Now it's looking like they believe it'll be closer to November. On the other hand, there was a slight tweak in wording in the Reserve Board's statement today, which indicated that the chance of a rate rise might have fallen a little. So in sum, it looks like we might be on hold for even longer.
All right, Network Finance Editor Gemma Acton. Thanks very much, Gemma.
Thank you, Anne.
A Western Sydney couple has been seriously injured after an argument with their neighbour about their dogs turned violent. The neighbour is accusing them of threatening them with an axe before revving his car and driving into them. Bill Hogan has more from Blacktown.
Good afternoon. Well, the 27-year-old man is right now in custody following a nasty dispute with his neighbours over their dogs in Doonside. that took a dangerous turn. It was 10-9 last night on Cygnus Close, where 42-year-old Jodie Robertson and 41-year-old Kurt Saunders were found seriously injured on the driveway of a home metres from their own. Witnesses say they were run over by a 27-year-old man following an argument where he allegedly threatened the man with an axe. Jodie's daughter was in the car at the time.
Revved his engine about 3 times, sped up, hit them, took the chick up to the driveway and took the guy onto the grass next door.
The driver kept going, turning right and crashing into a tree before backtracking and fleeing the scene. He ditched the car, then took off on foot, but not for long. Police found him and arrested him.
This particular incident highlights how horribly wrong neighbour disputes can go. If there was some calm and rational conversation between neighbours, we may not have had to deal with what we're dealing with today.
The street turned into a makeshift emergency room, paramedics treating both patients before taking them to Westmead Hospital. The man is critical while the woman is serious but stable. Their family are devastated by the incident. The couple remain in hospital while the alleged driver is expected to face court over serious allegations for a matter that could have been dealt with peacefully.
Power prices are set to fall from this July after 2 years of pain caused by high global prices from the invasion of Ukraine. But the opposition claims costs aren't falling by as much as the Albanese government promised at the last election. Here's Isabel Mullen.
Well, this is just a price guide for electricity prices, but it is welcome news. On the East Coast, most people can expect price cuts of between 0.4 and 7.1%, while the majority of small business customers will likely see a price drop of between 0.3 and 9.7%. Prices for Victoria are a little bit different and are released by the Victorian Energy Regulator. There's a 6% reduction for residential and a 7% reduction for small business. Other residential customers could see increases of between 0.9 and 2.7%, but according to the regulator, price changes for all customers on standard plans will actually be less than the rate of inflation. It is the first sign of power bill relief in the cost of living crisis, and it comes after wholesale power prices fell dramatically internationally. It was a tough couple of years, though, for many customers here. Bills were up 40% in some cases.
After the world's biggest energy crisis in 50 years, energy prices are stabilising and there's a downward trend. Now, there's a long, long way to go.
The DMO figures indicate that any hope has been snuffed out of Labor delivering on its $275 promise. These people have just got to stop lying to the Australian people, especially in the midst of a cost of living crisis.
In May, a final decision on power bill relief will be announced, with those changes coming into effect on the 1st of July.
Donald Trump has suffered a major legal blow, failing to secure a $500 million bond in his New York civil fraud case. It means he's now at risk of having his property seized. Miley Hogan explains.
Donald Trump needs to put up this bond while he's appealing the civil fraud judgment, or he risks having some of his property seized. The bond is $464 million. In a court filing today, his lawyers described getting that as a practical impossibility. They have so far been rejected by 30 surety companies. Trump's lawyers say a key roadblock in securing the bond is that most insurers will not accept Trump's real estate assets as collateral, preferring to instead take cash. The bond stems from a penalty that was handed down by a New York judge last month, where the former president was found liable for exaggerating the value of his assets to obtain favourable loans. Donald Trump denies any wrongdoing. His lawyers have now asked a judge to pause the judgment or accept a bond of only $100 million. The deadline for Donald Trump to pay the original bond is March 25. It's unclear if the state will move to seize his assets if he fails to pay by next week's deadline, or if the court will rule on his plea for help before that.
King Charles is alive and well, despite reports in Russia to the contrary. British diplomats have been forced to correct Russian media, which have run with a fake palace statement dated March 18, declaring the monarch's death from cancer complications. The British embassy in Moscow moved quickly to declare the report as false. Cyclone Megan has been downgraded to a tropical low, with remote communities in the top end now assessing damage from the storm. Megan crossed the coast as a Category 3 cyclone in the Gulf of Carpentaria. Hundreds of residents in the town of Borroloola in the NT faced the brunt of the weather system. They were due to be evacuated, but Air Force aircraft couldn't land due to the severe conditions. Residents were instead told to shelter at the police station or other buildings capable of withstanding Category 3 conditions. We'll hear from CommSec for the latest on your money next. Then, petrol prices going down, but not by enough, according to the consumer watchdog. The 15-year-old taking inspiration from the king of rock and roll. And it's 34 degrees in Canamble in the central west. Angie will have our forecast soon.
Hey Chevo, Easter is on the way.
From the best value Aussie-made chocolate to the cutest PJs, our top spots for a half-price holiday and the perfect budget seafood lunch. Plus, the return of the Kentucky Traveller. Why Aussies are flocking back for big deals and epic locations. Start with sunrise tomorrow morning. In 7 News, the booming Sydney suburbs, where big is best.
Great things happening in Western Sydney.
Trophy homes and luxury living.
Enjoying every minute of living here.
That's cheaper than you think. On Sydney's 7 News with Mark Ferguson at 6.
Petrol prices are falling, but not enough, according to the consumer watchdog. The ACCC's quarterly report shows Sydney's average retail petrol price was 194.9 cents per litre in the December quarter last year. That was down 0.7 cents from the September quarter, but the wholesale price came down more than 6 cents. As prices start to surge again, we're being urged to check the ACCC website and other fuel check apps to find the cheapest prices. Let's get a check of your finance now. And of course, all eyes were on the RBA today. Here's Laura Bezerati at CommSec.
Good afternoon. Well, the Reserve Bank was certainly in the spotlight today, and it was quite an uninspiring session right up until that RBA decision at 2:30 p.m, where they did leave rates on hold, as was widely expected. But the commentary seemed quite neutral this time, saying they are not ruling anything in or out. And it seems investors got a little excited about this because it does open the door to rate cuts as long as inflation continues to move downwards. And on the back of this, the Aussie market jumped up by about 0.33%. In company news, Bellevue Gold was higher after discovering high-grade gold at its project in Western Australia. New Hope rose despite its net profit sliding 62% on the back of lower coal prices. And the company behind brands like Kathmandu and Rip Curl, KMD Brands, reported that it swung to a loss as consumers remain cautious amid the higher cost of living pressures, but its shares still ended higher. Finally, the Aussie dollar has eased a little after that RBA decision, currently buying 65.2 US cents.
Vladimir Putin has celebrated his election win by taking the stage at a concert in Red Square on the 10th anniversary of Crimea's annexation. He told the crowd that the occupation of 4 other Ukraine regions marked their return to Russia. Putin won another term as president with 88% of the vote in an election the West regards as a sham. Influenza cases are on the rise. So far this year, the number of infections has increased nearly 30% when compared to 12 months ago. The numbers reinforce concerns that we could be facing another early severe flu season this year. The Immunisation Coalition says many people are unprotected, putting themselves at risk as well as those around them. Those at highest risk are children under 5, pregnant women, older people, as well as Indigenous people and those with underlying health conditions. Sydney's 6 p.m. news is coming up with Mark Ferguson. Mark, what is on the program?
Yeah, good afternoon, Anne. Interest rates are on hold, power prices falling, and there's more good news on the way. 5 million Australians in line for extra money, with boosts to the pension starting tomorrow. From seniors to job seekers, rent assistance and help for parents. We'll take you through those changes at 6. Also tonight, a fresh crisis for the state's top cop. Police Commissioner Karen Webb's decision-making called into question, and the Premier's again been forced to guarantee her job. Flights to Europe for $400. The new airline sparking price wars, sending airfares way down, the destinations on offer and what you need to know before booking. Our exclusive interview with swimming champ Kyle Chalmers, the mysterious ban handed to his coach just months out from the Olympics. Now Kyle's determination to win another gold against the odds. And mansions at a discount. It seems like a dream, but in these Sydney suburbs, it's very much a reality. We'll show you the surprise locations. And those stories and plenty more tonight at 6 o'clock.
See you then, Fogo. Thank you. An Australian teenager is putting on his blue suede shoes as the youngest artist to compete in the ultimate Elvis tribute contest. 15-year-old Charlie Gaylard will head to Queensland in June, going up against the best in the business.
Musicians don't come any more iconic than the great Elvis Presley, the king, as it were. People have been trying to replicate his magic for years. One of them is Charlie Gaylard. Charlie, you're just 15. Tell us how you discovered Elvis.
Well, I watched the Elvis film that came out in 2022 by Baz Luhrmann, and ever since I've seen that film, I've just had a really deep connection to Elvis that I've never really had with anyone else. It's very hard to describe, you know. It just happened. When I watched the film, it caused a bit of a spark in me, and I haven't looked back ever since.
How do you find performing on stage as Elvis?
Well, it's indescribable. You know, the feeling of being on stage is just unlike anything else. There's people that are cheering your name, and it's just the most energetic. I can't describe it, truly. It's just amazing. But, you know, I find that I can often do things on stage that I could never do off stage, you know? It just kind of brings out a different side of me that I never knew I really had.
Tell us a little bit about what your hopes and dreams are as someone who performs as Elvis.
Well, every ETA, I feel, they all have the same goal, which is to compete in the ultimate Elvis tribute artist and go to Memphis and compete there and win. You have to be 18 to do that, so I've got a couple of years of waiting, but it's just more time to practice, I suppose. But that's really what I'm striving to achieve, and that's what I'm putting a lot of my efforts towards, you know, to compete there on that stage at Graceland. It is, hopefully it happens.
Well, if you've got a couple of years to prepare, you're in with a pretty good chance. I've seen Charlie sing. Tune into the news at 6 and you can hear him yourself.
There were some wagging tails in Cammeray this morning at the Guide Dogs annual graduation day. 4 up-and-coming guide dogs and 2 therapy dogs earned their harness.
All dogs have strengths. Some have strengths for guide dog work. Our guide dogs need to be nice and responsive, they need to be confident, they need to be settled, but they also need to be quite dynamic and work through complex environments. And our therapy dogs need to really enjoy snuggles and cuddles and be a bit of a lounge lizard.
The training for all 4 guide dogs was made possible by supporters who had left a monetary gift for the organisation in their will. Next in 7's afternoon news, Angie will be here with your latest weather forecast.
Monique Bovino here in the Allcastle Homes traffic chopper. We're seeing a slow run for the M4 through St Clair with a breakdown westbound passing Roper Road. Also very busy through Clyde westbound passing James Druce Drive after an earlier crash. And here's traffic through Smithfield, the Cumberland Highway. We had an earlier incident southbound, slowing up traffic. Allcastle's Palace Regent offers a huge 45 squares of luxury living with 5 substantial bedrooms, large balcony and more. allcastlehomes.com.au.
In 7 News, Sydney power bill relief on the way. How much you'll save and when. Interest rates on hold, so when are the cuts coming? We hear from the RBA boss. The neighbourhood dispute that led to a hit and run at Doonside. First video of Princess Kate out and about. And Sydney's surprise new luxury suburbs revealed. Sydney 7 News at 6.
Sydney Zoo is set to put on its highly anticipated light festival again this year. Glow will showcase light installations created by both local and international artists, which the zoo says have never been seen before. Highlights include the light walk through the zoo, as well as an immersive aquarium experience. Glow at Sydney Zoo begins on May 10. Godzilla has again taken to the streets of Tokyo, but this time the monster's not out to destroy the city. The popular movie character has been made Tokyo's police chief for a day. Godzilla's message to the city is one of road safety. The monster is one of several Japanese characters chosen to raise public awareness about staying safe in Tokyo's busy traffic. Angie's back with our forecast now. Hi there, Angie, and there is some wet weather on the way.
That's right, Anne. A significant change is tracking across the state, due to reach Sydney tomorrow. Today was a little burst of summer though. Clouds cleared into a sunny afternoon, allowing the top to reach 27 degrees, and it felt even warmer than that due to high humidity. Checking this satellite now, we've got a trough and a cold front aligning in western New South Wales. We're already seeing some severe storms inland, highlighted in yellow, with damaging winds the main concern. Tomorrow, that system, along with the rain band, will track towards the coast, should reach the state's southeast during the day before sweeping up the coast as a strong and gusty southerly change from the early afternoon. Around the capitals, Brisbane's expecting a passy shower. It will be warm, 30 degrees. Canberra, showers easing, 24. Melbourne, a morning shower, otherwise fine, cooler, 18 degrees. Hobart aiming for just 17 degrees with a shower or two. Adelaide's looking cloudy, a top of 22. Sunshine for Perth, 30. Wet weather returning for Darwin with a top of 33 degrees. Back in Sydney, the cloud cover does return. We're on track for a top of 27 degrees before gusty showers arrive during the day. Southerlies will cause a significant drop in temperature from the early afternoon. To the next 7 days, those showers are short-lived. They ease for Thursday and Friday, although it will remain cloudy and the cooler temperatures remain. Saturday and Sunday, just the odd passing shower, nothing too much in that. And Monday, looking pretty good. Another taste of summer with tops in the high 20s and partly cloudy. I'll have more weather at 6 o'clock, Anne.
Thank you very much, Angie. And that is Sydney's 4 p.m. news for this Tuesday. Mark Ferguson will bring you 7 News at 6. I'm Ann Sanders. Stay with 7 Now for The Chase Australia, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for joining us. Have a great night.
Stream 7 News anytime, live and on demand on 7plus. And with 7news.com.au, you'll know the news now.